It's Saturday morning and it's been one of those weeks. The house is a disaster and you've rounded everyone up to pitch in and muck it out. Cue the whining and the excuses.
It's not my mess. No, but it's a Saturday. It's your day off from school.
It doesn't take long for the whining to turn into tattling.
Mom, but Bobby's not doing anything at all.
Don't worry, Emily Whittison has your next line.
I ask them if they want a mom job, because if they're going to act like a mom, then they get a mom job. And they don't like mom jobs because they're harder and they're extra, right? It's just like, oh, you sound like you want to be a mom. I have a mom job for you. And they're like, no.
This is the How She Moms podcast, where we talk about how different moms solve the same problems. I'm Whitney Archibald, a mother of 5 kids myself. I collect ideas so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. This week's episode is another bonus interview. I recorded this conversation with the incredible Emily Fillmore about a year ago for my episode, How She Teaches Kids to Work and How She Teaches Kids to Be Tidy. And I thought it was time to bring you the whole interview now that we're all figuring out our fall routines. My other reason for releasing this episode is something I'm really excited about. I have so many fabulous interviews just sitting here on my computer. You've heard snippets of them in my episodes, but there's so much other good stuff just waiting to be heard. So I decided to release 2 interview episodes a month on the weeks that I don't release a regular episode. I'll be releasing them on my new Patreon account. So you'll not only be able to get exclusive content, but you'll also be supporting How She Moms and allowing me to continue producing all of my episodes for you. You'll also get access to all the extras that go along with my episodes, things like printables and other resources, as well as lists of great books, podcasts, and other things I love. I've been offering these extras in my weekly emails for a while now, and I still will, but this Patreon group will allow me to keep all the extras in one place in case you've missed one. This week, the extra that I'll be sharing on email and then on Patreon is the cleaning instructions that I print out for my kids, like how to clean your room and how to clean your bathroom. Each one has a list of expectations and then a list of how they can go the extra mile and achieve excellence. And if they do achieve excellence, I tip them. On Patreon, we'll also have an exclusive Facebook group where you can ask the How She Moms community for help with your tricky problems and where we discuss upcoming episodes, among other things. If you're already part of the How She Moms Facebook group and you're not a member of Patreon yet, don't worry, you're still in. Okay, back to Emily. This woman is truly amazing. She's the mother of, wait for it, 11 children. And at the time of this recording, she actually had 13 living with her, counting foster kids. Emily has given birth to 6 children, has officially adopted 3 more kids, and is currently fostering and in the process of adopting their 2 younger siblings. In a situation when the adults are so overwhelmingly outnumbered, you need some good systems in place if you're going to have a chance at surviving the chaos. And Emily nails it. In this episode, she explains her chore and allowance systems and shares great tips for teaching kids to work, assigning and keeping track of daily chores, and keeping clutter at bay. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that you don't have 11 children, but Emily's system is very scalable, whether you have 1 kid or, well, 11. First, I wanted to just ask what you expect your kids to do around the house and at what age you start them, that kind of thing.
Okay. I kind of expect my kids to be able to do everything, because years ago I read this article and it said they were these college students that the moms would come and check their rooms, and they were just like, these kids do not know how to clean, like anything. And I was determined, this was probably about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago, that my kids would not be those young adults where they just do not know how to clean anything. And so I started off with tons of different charts, and I did one where they were really little and I took pictures of them doing the jobs, and I've seen people do that because they can't read. Or I had tickets and things to hand them when they would do the job, and nothing ever really stuck. And it was like years of, I think I probably tried like 10 different things because I wanted something that was organized, that they would be invested in, like me, like it would stick. And what I found was that less was more when it came to like paper and stuff, and like handing the stuff out, or charts, like too much on it and stuff. And so it was probably 6 years ago where I happened upon just a chore wheel, just a basic chore wheel.
Uh-huh.
In the article that I read, it talked about how to clean a whole room, how kids were just doing the garbages or just doing vacuuming or just doing whatever, and that the kids weren't being taught how to do an entire room from a start of a job to the end of a job. And also, when my kids would leave for school, and I was doing foster care when I first started, so I went from 4 kids to 8 kids in 2 months, and I had postpartum. So they would leave, and I'd look in my kitchen, and I was like, I'm going to spend my whole morning cleaning up and putting everything away. And I kind of was like, that's not fair to me. Like, I have other things to get done. And I am like, this is not fair to me. So I sat my kids down. The oldest was 9, and the youngest was a newborn. And so there were 8 of them, just all little kids. And I said, I need help.
At this point, a couple of kids walked in to ask for help with something, and as they left, Emily did some of my fact-checking for me.
Do you do a lot of jobs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go do more jobs. Go. Yeah, go ahead. Shut the door. Adios. Okay, and so anyways, I sat them down. There are these little kids, and I'm like, I need more help. It can't just be like one little job or just your room. Like, I need help. So it started out as actually desperation because I was starting to drown, and I don't like to feel out of control, or I have a problem with things on the floor. And so anyways, I just was like, okay, you're going to help me. And so we started out with a breakfast job on the first wheel and a dinner job on the second wheel, and then a clean house job on the third wheel. And
Okay.
it's evolved since then, but mostly it's stuck the same way for 6 years. In the summertime, they have more time. So that's kind of when I utilize the rooms, my largest wheel chart. I don't actually use it very much.
Okay.
It has become more of this, the breakfast job and the dinner job have been the most helpful for me.
Uh-huh.
If people have less kids, it might be easier to use the bigger wheel. But what I have found has been helpful is I'll just say, have you done a clean house job today? And if they haven't, I'll give them a room, and it can change, right? Because one day maybe I don't have that room and they're assigned that room. So it wasn't working out as what I needed done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So just becoming more efficient was to kind of not use that last wheel. I don't know if I ever will again, but like the last couple years, it's been like they know the wheels for breakfast and dinner, and then they know they have to do a clean house job every day. And on Saturday they have to do 3 clean house jobs. And sometimes that's cleaning out my car would be one, like all the garbage in my car. I'll have a little kid clean out the toy basket in the toy room. That will be one of their jobs. And so they'll just get one of those a day during the week, and they'll get 3 of them on Saturday. And so it's just kind of whatever I need, right? It's like, I need this basket unloaded, there's your job. Or I need this family room cleaned. So the family room is like everything plus the vacuuming. So they're learning to do, or they'll have a bathroom to clean, which they've learned to do each part of it.
Yeah.
So they can do the whole thing. So I use the chore wheel to tell them what their chores are for the day, and we spin the name, because some kids would prefer to keep the same chore all week. So some families do that.
Uh-huh.
I like to my kids like to switch it every day.
Okay.
So we just spin the middle one, and it tells them what their breakfast job is. And so in the morning, instead of me looking at the kitchen and being like, oh my gosh, I have all morning to do this, someone has unloaded the top. I have a lot of kids, so we have to split
Right.
Someone has unloaded the top. Someone has unloaded the bottom. A smaller kid. My kids are doing the dishwasher, everything that they can do. There's some things that are higher up that they just put on the counter for me to do.
Right.
By the time they're probably 4 or 5.
Uh-huh.
So they are unloading or loading the dishes no later than 5, because they can do that, right?
Right.
Silverware is a lot earlier. So then I come into the kitchen, and on a typical morning, and I would say this happens more often than not, the dishwasher's unloaded, the breakfast dishes are done, the counter is cleared, the counter is washed, the table is cleared, the table is washed. And so then I come in, and I just have to like fix,
Right.
whatever they needed a little bit of help on. But for the most part, they leave, and I have this feeling of like, oh, instead of, oh my gosh, like I just want to climb back into bed because there's too much to do.
So what is their motivation there? Why
So
are they able to do that without you asking them?
one big thing is I've stuck with it.
Uh-huh.
And that's probably the biggest thing actually, is that they don't complain anymore, except my youngest before the baby and before the foster baby. He's always been kind of like, I can't do it, it's too much, or like,
Right.
but I've stuck with it, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. He all of a sudden he just started doing it without crying and saying no. Then he regressed and he started doing the same thing again, like it's too big of, like, even if it's his mess. Can somebody help me? I'm like, no. And there is that train of thought that until they're like 5, or I can't remember what old, you need to help them. And a lot of times I do when they're little, but sometimes I can't. So I'll
Right.
either have an older sibling do it with them, or I'll just, make it a smaller job, like that. So they don't bite off more than they can chew. But it's really just, if you stick with it, it's just an expectation.
Yeah.
They know that that's what they have to do. And they don't say, no, I don't want to. I'm kind of talking about like school time.
Uh-huh.
And summer's a little different. But we call it morning free time. And we ask our kids as they're getting ready and going around in the morning, are you on morning free time? You're not? Put that toy down. Are you on morning free time? Get on morning free time. So my
Right.
kids' school starts at 9. The ones that have to go earlier get most of their stuff done because they just wake up earlier.
Uh-huh.
They have to save like they don't get both. They have 2 instruments. They get one of their instruments done, and they'll do the other one in the afternoon. So
Okay.
the other kids that start at 9, they get both instruments done, breakfast job, clean room, make bed, and then we call it stuff by door. Their stuff has to be by the door. They make their own lunches for starting in first grade. And so, I mean, I still, especially the younger ones and my boys that are like distracted by a piece of paper on the floor,
Right.
I just have to keep, instead of yelling, which was a law of the mornings a long time ago,
Uh-huh.
say, are you on free time? Are you on morning free time? And then the little ones, I just have to take the toy from their hand and put it on a shelf and say, this is here for you when you're on morning free time. Most of my kids are extremely motivated by morning free time because they want to get back to that Lego, or they want to be able to turn on a little iPad game. And so morning free time is a large portion of their motivation, especially the little ones.
Okay.
The older ones are just kind of wanting to get ready for school, and if they get on morning free time, they're really excited because then they don't have to do stuff after school.
Right.
So
Right.
morning
So
free
that's more of
time,
an intrinsic motivation that develops once they're a little older.
right. I have some that get on morning free time 30 minutes before school starts, 40 minutes before school starts, and they are, doing great. And I have some kids that I have to check their rooms every time, and then some kids that I can just trust that their room's clean. It's a great thing too, though. If I find out later, then we have a lesson on lying, or
Right.
accountability, and
That's a good attitude.
if they don't do a job, they get 2 jobs. And so it's just, if they're on someone else about doing they're not doing their job. I ask them if they want a mom job, because if they're going to act like a mom, then they get a mom job. And they don't like mom jobs because they're harder and they're extra, right? And
That's
so
awesome.
it's just like, oh, you sound like you want to be a mom. I have a mom job for you. And they're like, no, 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 no. And so
I am totally using that.
there's always those little mothers and little
Oh
fathers,
yeah.
right, in a
Oh
family.
yeah.
And I just say, you sound good at this, so I'm gonna use this. And I stopped doing timeouts a long time ago. I just do work. I get a lot of jobs done. So one thing that I love that we do is quick cleanups, where I have baskets, like a
Okay.
basket in the toy room. I have about 3 or 4 baskets throughout the house where there's so much stuff on the floor, or just places that I just throw it all in the basket. And my kids, sometimes when we're doing a quick cleanup, will throw it in the basket. And then that becomes one of the jobs, especially on Saturday, or it's a mom job where it's an extra job where they get to empty that basket. And then everything gets to put in their right place. So
That's brilliant.
my house always, most of the time, looks clean, but it's not really, because there's a bunch of stuff in these baskets. All the stuff that would be on the floor or the couch or the table is just shoved in a basket. My mom taught me that. She's like, you need lots and lots of baskets when you have lots of kids. And I'm like, you're right, we do. So that shoe or sock that kid isn't home to make them put it away yet, and you don't want to do it for them, but you also don't want it on the floor
Yeah.
for all day. I just throw it all in the basket, where whatever the closest basket it is there. And so I'll have one at the top of the stairs if it works out in the house, or at the bottom of the stairs. a lot of times I'll have a basket basically just for stuff that needs to go downstairs. So I was like,
Are
you're
these
gonna,
like are these like nice looking baskets?
yeah,
Or
they're cute.
okay.
They're cute. I mean, if they're ones that no one sees, then no, that's it could be a laundry basket. But some of them have lids, some of them don't.
Okay. I
Um,
usually use laundry baskets, which are not as attractive, so I like
you can
that.
totally use a laundry basket, but
Right.
I like to hide it, and so
And if it becomes part of your system and you have these baskets that are decent looking, because
yeah,
instead I've kind of like unofficially made that my system. Like there's one in the hallway right now, but it's just a laundry basket with a bunch of junk falling out. But if I
yeah,
just decided this is the way we're going to do it because we're doing it anyway,
yeah, do
get a
it.
nice little hamper
Like I
full of
have
laundry.
a cute one in the family room, a cute one in the toy room. I have a little one that I put in the kitchen that's just a small tin bucket that I put little things in that might get lost in the bigger ones,
Right. That's smart.
little pieces or things that I need to put in my room. So there's like I think we have a total of 3 baskets, but it's in like the main common areas
Yeah.
where the things can get dropped in really easily. And
Yeah.
then my
Even if we just
kids,
had one on each floor, that would be awesome.
yeah. And then my kids all have a special spot, which I like to call a junk box in their room. And
Okay.
so if I'm cleaning their room and I think it looks a special thing or whatever, then I shove it in their box. And then we do clean them out, a few times a year. And that means I dump it on the ground and throw away most of it.
Right.
Usually they'll help me. They'll be like, I don't want this anymore. I'm like, yeah, you know. So, but that's just to save it because it's so special at that moment.
Right.
And it's not something
But
I
then
can
it
hang
still
up.
has a spot. So
Right. So as a spot. Recently, because I have 3 little boys now in a room, I put a basket in their closet of the
okay.
toys that we keep in the toy closet downstairs, but that they're kind of into right then. Like they're really into swords right now. So instead of me putting them away every time and downstairs in swords, there's just a bucket in their room. And then when eventually they'll get over that, then there'll be like pirate toys in there because they're playing with them every day or more regularly. And so then I can say, okay, we need to clean this basket out. It's getting really full. It needs to get put away in the toy room, toy closet. So we have a toy closet downstairs that I lock.
Nice.
And if I have the key, then they still get it whenever they want. I just have to like go in and get what they want and then pull it out.
So that
Right.
it's
And
not
so
all out and on
I
the
leave
floor.
that door open. Everything is on the floor. You can't even get in. It's like crazy, which has happened quite a few times. And then I just make them clean it up. But now we had to make a storage room, a bedroom. It has a window in it though, because now we have 13 kids here.
Right.
And so they have to walk. I can't lock it currently, but they've been doing a really good job. And sometime every day I just kind of say, hey, go make sure the floor in the toy room closet is cleaned up. All kids play better when things are clean.
Yeah.
We organize a toy kitchen, and even my 11-year-old foster daughter and other kids are like, oh, I want to play in that kitchen now. Even though it's like this little kid kitchen, it's
Right.
organized and clean. And so then I'm like, yeah, it's way more fun, huh? So we find that we just clean it more than they play with it more.
Okay, so back to the kids' daily chores. Yes, they use the wheel to figure out what each kid has to do each day, but then to keep track of what they've actually done, Emily uses the Do Dots system, which is a system you can purchase. I'll include a link to it in my show notes. It's basically a magnetic board with all the chores listed for each child and magnets with a color on one side so they can flip the magnet to show that the chore is done. She's modified it a little bit to include a section for their morning jobs, and then there's a first level and second level for after-school chores.
So the chore wheel kind of just tells them what their jobs are
Right.
that are not their personal jobs, like making their bed and stuff and brushing their teeth. And then the chore chart is like their accountability. If they don't flip it over by the time we come back at night to reset it, my husband resets it. I create it and manage it, and he resets it for me every morning and night.
Oh, that's a great division of responsibility because that's a hard part for me. I don't
It's
know
so far.
why.
He also pays the allowance.
Okay.
And so he has a little folder and he goes through. It's supposed to be every other month or once a month. They don't get paid more than once a month because it's a big job.
Yeah.
Um, so he marks it with like tally marks or whatever on a little whiteboard that's above the chore chart and has their names on it.
Okay.
And he kind of keeps track of the money. And every night he flips it back over and puts the schedule on because I've made it so it's like each kid has their own section and their picture and they move their picture down. when they get on morning free time, their picture moves down to morning free time. When
Oh,
another one,
okay.
their picture moves down. And so then anyways, he manages the money and he has a one-on-one meeting with them and they go through it. So I don't have to think about the pain of the money. I just have to help them schedule wise and get their jobs done and then stuff like that. If they don't flip their magnets over and they're old enough to understand accountability and like that, then they don't get paid. So my oldest makes like almost no money, but he has to do all the work and he doesn't flip it
And
over. And it's
it's
been a
like,
couple of years. Like he's gotten a little bit better the last few months, but it's been a couple of years of the 10-year-old getting more money than him because even though he does his jobs most of the time, he doesn't flip it over. And we just tell him like, if you don't mark your hours at work, you don't get paid.
yeah,
So if you don't flip your magnets over and we can't see that you've done it, we can't pay you.
I love that.
So
Then it's on them. You're not like, okay, what'd you do?
and some of my kids have learned and one of my kids has not. And so, but I think he will be getting better because he started seeing that he had no money. And
Right. Right. That's a perfect natural consequence.
right. It looks overwhelming to people who don't know how it works
Right.
because it's like this
Well,
massive
that was my
system.
first impression, but now that you've explained it,
But for my kids, they just each have their column and
right.
it just gets reset in the mornings. So I've cleaned my room, check. I've gotten ready for the day, check. I put my stuff by the door, check. I've decided on my lunch. I'm either buying a lunch or I'm making a lunch, check, flipping it. And if they're wanting to buy a lunch, then they have to go check. We have the lunch menu printed out. So they go and look at what day it is and what they want, and they don't like it, and they go make lunch. And then they're instruments. So they have one row for instruments, but they might have two magnets or one magnet, depending on if they have one or two instruments. And I think that's all for the breakfast job. So I
Okay.
think that's all for the morning.
So the kids get paid about 10 cents a chore, if they flip their magnets, of course, with bonuses for getting on morning free time. The oldest kids can end up earning about $10 a week for their regular chores, plus more for extras like mowing the lawn. Doling out cash for all these jobs would get complicated. But you know Emily by now. She has a system for that.
So I have the mom store in my closet in my drawers. I have
Okay.
a bottom drawer and a middle drawer. And when they get older, it's not as appealing because they can just use Amazon, right?
Right.
I have Amazon Prime, and so I don't have a lot of cash floating around. So I just have those gold tokens that are just plastic.
Okay.
So I have each token worth 50 cents. And so we pay them their allowance in those.
Oh,
And
okay.
because unless we have cash laying around, which we rarely do, sometimes we
Right.
will and we'll give them cash, but we pay them in those, and then they can trade it in for cash or money when they need it,
Uh-huh.
or they give it to me and I buy something on Amazon. So then I can just do it that way.
That's
And a lot of times I'll have stuff in my drawer. My little kids will just come bring me their tokens, and
mm-hmm.
they'll get it that way. So I would say the stuff I have in my drawer is for maybe 10 and younger.
Okay.
And then my older kids are primarily Amazon, or they're going to a movie with friends. And I'll say, or we'll go into a movie and I'll say, I'll buy popcorn, but if you want drinks or treats, you have to buy them. So
Right.
they'll bring their money for that or something. But the little kids love the mom store because it's that instant gratification, right?
Yeah. I
So
love
they
that
can.
idea. And now, shall we take a moment to just imagine the mountains of laundry Emily would have if she were doing it all herself? Well, let's just say it's a good thing she doesn't.
They each have their own day for laundry, and they are required to bring up their basket, to put it in, to start it. I will change it for them if they start it before school.
That's
Um,
exactly my rule.
yeah, I'll change it for them. But they all have a day, and when they're old enough, they start it. And I think the age, like Ruby is 10, and my son who's 8 or almost 9 is now learning how to start it. And so they start it, and then they've switched it, and they can turn on the dryer. I think my Millie, who's just turned 8, she's super excited because she knows how to put the soap in, how to turn it on, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
So
it becomes a rite of passage.
right. And so with the laundry, the boys and the girls, they're all old enough. The older boys and girls are
Uh-huh.
old enough to, put it away. And I don't know what you do. What do you do? I make my kids hang up shirts because they're horrible at folding. So all my kids hang up shorts and they fold shorts in drawers.
Yeah,
And
I just
then,
totally gave up. We have no folding. I just let them be wrinkled. So
that's good.
they have to put them in the right spots. Like,
Well, I would have given up too if I didn't do the shirts hanging up. And my
yeah,
sister taught me that. So they know how to put, it's easier for kids to put a hanger on,
yeah,
to fold it. And shorts, they don't really fold them. They just have to lay them in the drawer. So I open
yeah.
the drawer and it's not like organized or folded or anything. They're just laid in there.
Uh-huh.
The little kids, the older kids know how to do it. Um, but yeah, I don't iron anything. My mom's like, "Do you want me to iron this white shirt for church?" I'm like, "Mom, no. Put it
That'll
on as
set a new precedent. No.
yeah." And he's like, "Well," she's like, "Well, these two are iron and this one isn't." I'm like, "No, those two got pulled out of the dryer faster, and that one didn't." And I said, "But no." So my little boys, I just dump their laundry on the floor and I say, "Go," and they go and they get it done really fast. Sometimes we'll do a timer for fun. Sometimes we'll do a treat for fun. My husband and I will sit on the floor and we don't do much except throw
Coaching.
yeah, I throw pajamas and I'm like, "Hey, put those away and these are your shirts, hang those up," or you're in charge of the socks. And so I just coach.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and you can start doing that at like 3 years old, 4 years old, but at 5 they can put away all their laundry.
So that's how she teaches the kids to do laundry and chores and other work around the house. But she also takes preventative measures, teaching general tidiness so things don't get too out of hand.
I'm trying to teach my kids the same thing I do. I have a hard time walking by something that's on the floor. Like it's like a OCD thing or whatever. You will often see me with armfuls of things and they will either go in the basket a lot of time or I'll hand them to people or whatever, but I rarely don't have something in my hand because I'm picking it up from the floor. So when my kids walk by something, I am like, "Ah, bend down, look down. You walked by your shoes that you almost tripped on, or you walked by a piece of garbage." So I'm starting to see the fruits of that labor, and it's been many years, but I have kids walking by now and picking stuff up because they know it's a big pet peeve of mine. If the kids
Uh-huh.
know what's important to you,
Right.
maybe something different, then they like to please you, right? And I'll praise them. "Thank you so much." Sometimes I'll like out of my corner eye pick up a piece of paper to read it, see what it is, and I'll just be like, "Please put it in the garbage." Like I want to see what they're gonna do. And
Right.
recently I just saw someone read it and then throw it back on the ground. So later I was like, "I was so excited to see you put that in the garbage and then you throw it back on the ground. Can you go get it and put it in the garbage?" So the tidiness, I have had to learn that no matter how hard I try, some kids are naturally tidy and some kids are naturally not tidy.
Uh-huh.
So I actually have kind of different expectations for them because, especially having foster kids, I mean, I just got some foster kids who I adore who are putting wet swimming suits in their underwear and sock drawer.
Oh, yeah, problem.
My kids don't do that. They're beyond that now because we've been doing this forever, but that's not something that they learned, right?
Right.
Or they're hiding things under beds or hiding things in closets, which my kids do sometimes, but
Right.
they know that I'm going to check. So my mom goes crazy when she finds these things. She just starts throwing them on the ground. "Oh, here's more. Oh, here's more garbage in your drawer, that your underwear drawer. Oh, oh." And I just goes in a pile on the floor. And then they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's a huge pile," because they don't realize how much they're shoving in their mattresses.
Right.
So being tidy is difficult in that I'm not checking their room every day.
Right.
If they get
Yeah,
it
you couldn't possibly.
right. And so, I would say I would like to do it once a week. It doesn't happen. Maybe once every couple weeks I go in and it's usually for another reason. And then I get stuck in there because I'm looking through their drawers and I'm like, "Ah." So I'm throwing out, "This isn't even yours. This is brother's underwear." And then I'm just making a pile in the middle of the floor and saying, "Okay, it's so much easier if you guys put things away where they go." Okay, side note. I have some kids that cannot remember to do something unless I do it right then. So I've tried to train them. Like my daughter, who's 12, she's amazing. She does so many amazing things. One thing she can't do is if I say, "Hey, can you put this away when you go downstairs?" She can't do that because she won't remember. It has to be like, "Can you go put this away right now? Remember, it's hard to remember later." And so she'll do it. And she's learned actually because she's lost earrings or things that are really important to her because she didn't put them away right then. She thought about doing it later. So I have some kids that can do it later and some kids that can't do it later.
I
So
love that.
I have kind of different expectations for certain kids, especially foster kids. I have different
Yeah.
expectations for them. My little Ruby, who is a organizational queen, she's exactly how I was when I was little. I loved to organize my mom's pantry for her. My daughter Ruby will clean the gym, and it will be complete. We have a gym in our basement, and she'll clean it, and then she'll take my phone down there and like do a video of it to show me, and she's so pleased, and it is beautiful.
That's
My
awesome.
oldest Isaac will clean the gym, and it's not organized, but everything is kind of tossed in its place and the floor is clear so they can play. So I kind of have different expectations in that, where I don't, and I have expectations in in the way that they keep their room too, but I don't have different expectations in cleaning the sink out or cleaning the counter, except for ages. I will have them redo it if it's not to my standard, because bathrooms and kitchens get the grossest, right? And so that's what needs the most, I think, attentive from start to finish. I've also find that some kids are not finishers naturally, and you've probably found that too.
Oh yeah. Well,
So
and I
in
do
your
that too. Yeah.
so being a finisher, my husband and I are both finishers, and so we get non-finishers in our family, and we're like, what? Like what? We asked you to plant these flowers in these pots, and then you left the empty bag of fertilizer on the ground and the garbage pots, that they came out of on the ground, and you left and you finished. But that's not finishing. Finishing is throwing all that stuff in the garbage. So like we're trying to teach the finishing, and with tidiness, it's kind of like that. Like when you do your laundry, you also, if you got new clothes, you've ripped the tags off and they're on the ground, you throw them away, or you bring the basket that's empty now upstairs. So we're always trying to teach, we call it finishing.
I love that. I love having a title for it.
And so finishing is a big one. But as far as tidy goes, it is different, because with chores, they know exactly what's expected of them. With tidiness, it's their stuff. They all have their special spots, which I call junk boxes,
right?
And their rooms. And so they each organize their stuff differently. And as long as it's kind of where it's supposed to be, I've let them kind of take over that.
Yeah, no, I love that explanation, and that finishing thing. I'm so excited, because right before our call, I went down to check on the laundry progress, and my 13-year-old, yes, he stuck his in the washing machine, but he transferred the load that was in the washing machine just halfway. So some of them are hanging out, some of them are on the floor, getting dirty again.
Yeah.
Just had that conversation about finishing.
Just the other day, I gave my daughter a pair of socks. I'm like, go put these away. And we went downstairs. Her drawer was halfway open, and the socks were on the floor next to the drawer. And I was like, that's a new one. So I'm like, I brought her down. I'm like, it was so close. But I think every mom has experienced, though, when they come in the door from school, the backpacks and everything's on the floor when the hooks are 2 inches
right
away,
there,
2 feet away, like right there.
Yeah.
Like, I make it so easy for you. There's a shoe basket and a coat. It's so easy. I have an IKEA shelf, that one of those big cubes. They each have 2 shelves, and one shelf is a box. And through the whole school year, that's where their important papers go. So it just fills up over the year. And I throw away what I can, but what I can't get away with, it just goes in there. Or if there's something that's like school related, I'm like, I do not know if I want to keep this yet or throw this away. Or like a ribbon from piano, even like just their stuff that's not like toys, special spot stuff. And it goes in their box. And then above it is where they put their backpack. So their backpack goes in the thing. And then they sometimes they'll put their coat in there, or their gym clothes or whatever. So they have a spot. So everything in my house, I have a ton of stuff and a ton of kids, but everything has a place. That's what I've tried to teach my kids, is that this is where this goes, and this is where this goes. And I will have to tell you too, that my house is 9,000 square feet, and which is huge.
Right.
And I have 13 kids that do clean bathrooms, but don't clean them very well. So I do have a cleaners that come, that I started having when I had foster kids.
You have to.
I feel like I'm working all the time anyways, and I have piles everywhere to go through. But when I have cleaners come, I do make my kids know their names, because they're my friends now. They've been with me for a long time, and they're cleaning when they're cleaning. So when they come and they're cleaning, I'm cleaning alongside them, and my kids are cleaning. This is so I know that the toilet has been properly cleaned at least once a week.
Right.
And the floors are really clean at least once a week.
Oh, to be a finisher. I'm really working on both finishing and tidiness myself. and especially finding a place for everything. So many great ideas. I loved getting a sneak peek into Emily's life. It kind of boggles my mind to think of doubling my kids and then adding one. But it's just so beautiful how Emily's family has come together. You can learn more about her foster care journey on Instagram at foster.hearts. I'll also post some pictures of her beautiful family and her chore wheel and other things on my Instagram account this week. Thank you for listening to the How She Moms podcast. If you'd like more resources related to each episode, plus lists of my favorite books, podcasts, and other things, and announcements about upcoming episodes and events, you can sign up for my weekly email at howshemoms.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at howshemoms or go to howshemoms.com, where you can read or listen to past podcast episodes arranged by topic so you can find answers to the problems you're facing right now. You can also support the podcast by joining my Patreon community at patreon.com/howshemoms. I have a treasure trove of interviews that I've recorded with moms from different episodes, and I'll be editing these and releasing them on Patreon on the weeks that I don't release regular episodes. You'll also have access to all my favorite lists, worksheets, and other resources through Patreon. And special thanks to my own mom, Susan Singley, for recording the theme music to my podcast. She played this song often as I was growing up, and to me, it's part of the soundtrack of motherhood.